Yeah. And I'm going to get another message that's going to be like 3 hours. No, thanks. Are we live? We're live.
We should be.
Says we're live. Hello, everybody. How are you? I hope everyone is well. We got guitar action. It's working. Jamming across the continent. Amazing. I hope everyone is well. If anyone is watching already, I know JJ's House of Jams is definitely in the stream already.
We're a little early, but that was based on everybody else's.
Oh, right.
You know,
we're a little bit early according to previous iterations.
Previous streams.
Yeah, previous streams of the Nick Show, the Nick Hill Show. Welcome, climbing up the hill. What is it? Running up that hill, running up that Kate Bush. How about that Kate Bush?
Oh yeah.
Running up that hill. If Carrie's watching, she knows what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about, Nick. You like that Kate Bush.
Of course.
That Kate Bush is like a pretty talented individual.
There's very little I don't like.
Right. That's a good attitude. We're going to get into that topic later tonight. I got it on stockpile. Swaffy, how are you, brother? I hope all is well. I see you in that stream.
I hope everyone's warm this evening. It is cold down here this fine Saturday night.
I'm glad that you're enjoying a little bit of that frigide, because that's how you say it in French. Actually, that's not how you say it in French, but that's how I'm saying it in French.
It's slang.
Slanguage. But I am boiling up a storm right now. But I can't give up the hoodie.
Well,
come on.
For you. Right.
Got to have those contrasting white zips going on.
Yeah, I like that. Oh man, I was gonna wear my. I had picked out my.
Your Nick Hill uniform. Running up that hill.
No, that black hoodie I bought from you that I now can't remember what the hell it's.
The wetlands.
Wetlands. The wetlands.
Oh, is it the wetlands one?
Yeah.
Partying. Just kidding. There's no kidding about partying, Swaffy. Ready for this dad metal live stream. Come on. I'm super youthful. I know, like, you can see, where is it? Right here. Look at that right there. Those are some dad lines.
I'm about to be 40 in 5 days.
Dude, right, you're a January kid too.
I am.
You're Capricornia. I am Aquarian. I'm going to be 49 in 3 weeks. Can you believe it? I know. Almost 50. It's pretty
49.
Weird. 49.
Still
I got the time. I got that time for 49. Anyway, I'm so friggin' jazzed for this episode because I got the
Miguel.
I got
my dude.
I got the tone today. Oh wow, Swaffy. Happy New Year, Big Mig. Oh.
This is my Swedish tone.
Something I noticed, Nick.
Yeah.
Maybe you can speak to it. We're like before we get right into the stream, but I noticed with your tones, at least when you play them, like when I play your tones, because I have your patches, right?
Yeah.
I have most of your patches at least. Something I find is I can't quite get that. You have this like kind of like kicking the balls kind of low thing in your patches. Maybe it's because you're tuned a little bit higher and you have super light strings. I'm not sure. But like there's this oomph to your tones that I can't seem to quite get. Also, I cut so much bottom because bottom is such a problem with the super low tuning.
Yeah. I think Barry, what's up, brother? Yeah, I think
what is it? Is it part of like your patch creation?
I know that you cut a little bit more low end than me. I do still cut quite a bit.
Do you boost any low end?
No.
No. I didn't think so, but
like in this patch, as an example, which this video is going live on Monday. But if you're a patron or a
I saw
YouTube
it today.
member,
Yeah, I was there. I didn't watch it because I was eating dinner, but
how dare you?
I am a flawed person.
That's okay.
Gene,
Yeah,
hello.
I mean,
how are
there's
you?
Not
Barry,
much space happening.
yo again.
I'm cutting in the IR block, in the cab block. I'm cutting to 99, so 100 hertz.
Yeah, I'm cutting at 100.
And at 300 hertz, on the low shelf, I'm cutting a dB. So I'm really cutting it.
That might be it.
I think a lot of it has to do with also like our play. You play lighter than I do. Like,
oh no, I play so hard that the guitar is always going out of tune. No,
I think I might play harder
going out of tune. No, I play harder than you for sure.
Then I don't know. That's true. That was a silly thing to say. I know you play heavy. I know you're heavy. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to stop. I will refrain from riffs so much. Riffs. Hello, York. How are you? Hope your day was well. Gene, it's Gene's birthday this month as well. Friday, what does he say? Friday the 13th. Holy shoot.
Oh, nice.
That's a nice one. That's a nice one. Freddie's coming. Freddie is coming. That Nightmare on Elm Street, it's a reality for you.
Yeah, Bunn got his guitar to pop through now.
No, I didn't figure it out. This is what I was doing before, and I didn't like. There's a bunch of things I don't like about it. It's going through Reaper.
Oh, that's right.
So I have the problem with that is if I want to do live streaming and maybe play to drums or something like that, it's not going to happen because there's not enough DSP to run the stream, run everything, and Reaper to be able to...
We'll figure this out.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out to where we can get from your stomp into the stream.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Yeah,
or
we'll figure that out.
I'll buy another rack. I miss my rack. That rack was like smoking.
It's funny now that you've been using the stomp. You're talking about getting that rack again.
I've had the Helix now like 3 different occasions.
I know. I'm glad. I hope this one sticks.
Yeah, probably. Unless I get a quad cortex. But honestly, I'm going to be like, this is something we're going to get into. I think we can kind of start on the topic here shortly. Maybe we'll push it to 10:10. Gene, you guys are awesome. Happy birthday to all. Yeah. Happy birthday to you as well, Gene.
Thanks, Gene.
Birthdays are awesome. For me, birthday is, this is, a little sidebar, but birthday for me is my actual new year. It's the kind of like the total reset and the total start over kind of period for myself.
Yeah. That's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I'm weird, and I know I'm weird, and my wife always says this too. Like, I don't make a big deal of birthdays. Even, like, my kids have grown up now where they don't really see their birthdays as being a big deal. And that could be a negative thing.
I don't think so.
But I'm more about celebrating, like, accomplishments, you know, and and shit like that. And it doesn't have to be major accomplishments, but, What happened? What'd you do?
I got my Bookinsville here on the telly.
Oh, we started early for
Books.
I'm trying to get you and Nick Hill up live, but I can't get it on YouTube.
How come?
She's not subscribed?
Because I put it up, Pookie. I put it up and it's not coming up. Is that Nick Hill?
Nick Hill Makes Music is if you search that on YouTube. But if you go there, the tab is already open. I set you up already.
Yeah, I know you did. But okay, so I'm just gonna go
Refresh it. Refresh it.
No, Pookie. Nick Hill Makes Music.
That's it. This is the woman I love. She's incredible. I'm not gonna lie.
just not when it comes to Chrome.
Nick Hill Makes Music. All one
I should
word.
still be the first thing that pops up.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, folks.
Yeah.
Because I tried to get up. Are you up right now, Nick?
Oh yeah. We're up right now. We're live right now. This is happening live. This is good content. Does everyone agree? I think this is great content.
I think the guys understand.
Yeah.
I know, Boogie. I tried. Oh, okay.
We want to include the people we love.
We do, Funky. We do, my Boogie. I know, because I tried to, and I was like,
You're gonna. You got it.
I know, but I don't know how to get the volume up, Punky. Oh.
It's probably on the. Is it
might
still
be
going through the stereo, or did you?
I took the stereo
Okay,
off.
right. So
Oh, no. Okay.
just the volume key on the top left of the
Turn it
chord.
off.
You got it?
Oh, we got it. Monkey, we got it.
Amazing,
We got it.
babe.
Now
Love
I have
you.
to watch my mouth.
Okay, love you, Punky.
Oh, you guys are so annoyingly cute.
Oh, she's the best, dude. Carrie's incredible. Like,
What a sweetheart. I
Yeah.
appreciate her being a trooper, listening to us ramble on about nothing of interest to her.
yeah, I think she just likes how handsome we are.
Well,
You know?
I mean,
We're very
can you
handsome
say?
human beings.
combined, we probably make up a handsome man. Yeah.
We're A-list actor together. If we join
Oh, for sure.
forces,
For
Transformer style.
And the brain power, like the collective, like philosophical outlook on life.
Wikipedia, right here.
Yeah. When it comes to string gauge.
Yeah. What strings should I use? Turbo Plasma Chicken, how are you? Welcome to the stream. Always good to see you. Traditionally, in the old ways, New Year was celebrated at the start of spring, not halfway through the winter-summer cycle. Makes sense, right? Yeah. I think the churn of the new crop, the new growing season, I think is like sort of the pagan thing. Pinky and the Bun. Yeah. I think it's Pinky and the Hill is really the way it
Bun's
should go.
pinky.
Yeah,
Pinky,
for sure.
Pinky Bun.
But okay, so we're gonna kick it off here. I have a kickoff question. I'm gonna pose
Do it.
this to Nick Hill, but this is a question for everybody in the stream. I want to grow more gear. Yeah, gear is pretty tantalizing. But this question is about gear in a way. But Nick Hill, a lot of people go to you for thoughts on tone and all this kind of stuff. And tone is an important thing to you that that you're always concerned with. Would you say that you are achieving the tone that you have in your head for any given project? Or do you give up a little bit? You're like, you know what? I'm not quite getting there, but the project and the tune is more important, and I'm 80% of the way there, 80-20 rule. Which way does it go for you? Are you relentless to get to the tone, or 80-20?
I wonder how disappointing this answer is going to be.
Well, that's the point of the answer.
Here's the thing. I think in my pursuit of wanting to find the exact tone that I always wanted to, that thing where you're like searching and searching for a tone, and it's getting to the point where you're just not writing or composing or practicing. You're just screwing around trying to come up with the tone, and it's not good enough, and it's not good enough. Now that I've done that for so long, I've gotten closer to the tone in my head, like, okay, this is my sound, I'm good. And I don't care about it nearly as much.
Right. So 80-20.
Like, absolutely 80-20. Like, I'm close enough. I know this tone with this bass, if I get the drums right. More importantly, if I have riffs that I'm going to, like, groove to, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
I don't pine over it like I used to.
I agree. I am very similar that way. I don't really care about tone that much. But something I think that is important to talk about, like in maybe both of our opinions of not really caring about tone so much, is that we definitely satisfy that 80-20 thing. Like,
yeah.
And for me, it's 80-20, like what 20% of, it's not the 80%, it's the 20%. What 20% of the effort in getting the tone gets me 80% of the way there.
Exactly.
You could look at it either way. Doesn't really matter. Different perspectives are always welcome and completely normal. But
yeah, I mean, I still like it's definitely something that I don't let it stop me from finishing my shit anymore.
Yep.
Where a
Very
couple years
important.
ago I would have, but I do think I still want it to sound good, but I think I've learned enough about how to get that 80 to 85% there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I'm good.
Yeah.
Gene makes a good point. He says tone can be inspiration.
Yeah.
And absolutely. But I think
Um,
to Bunn's point, like if you're 80, 85% there,
you're inspired.
I'm inspired.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Stream over. Goodbye.
Oh no, there's more. So, speaking to that point in terms of tone chasing, you talked about tone chasing a little bit in talking about kind of how you got to where you're at. Is there anything that you could say about tone chasing? Like, so on one side of the coin, I think tone chasing for a bit is actually important in your personal development. If you've never done it, you should chase it a little bit because it ultimately forces you to dive deep into what is the mechanics of the devices that you're using. So whether it be a modeler, an amplifier, the DAW, whatever, you tend to dive deeper if you're chasing the tone. People who don't care and they don't chase the tone at all, usually, not always, but usually never really sound worth the hell. I could be very wrong on that. This is kind of an assumption, but in chasing the tone, so there is a positive side to it, but there is what you talk about where you get lost in it. And can you sort of speak to that balance and kind of the conclusion that you came to in that? And this is a question for everybody, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm just posing it to Nick because we're having a conversation, but these are things that are important to talk about.
Yeah, we'll get back to the chat. So you guys want to interject with your thoughts on it, we'll go back to it for sure. So, we talked about it last week, and you mentioned it, a few times in different videos about like putting in the time. And I always say like, the reps. I'm not the first person to have said it.
I like the reps.
But you got to put in the reps. So like you kind of nailed it on the head. Once you realize you'll get to a point in practicing, trying to get your tone or learning what makes a good tone, what things go into it. The more you do it, the more you learn. And then when you get decent / good / really good at it, then you're like, oh, okay, it's not that big of a deal. Like the difference between like a crappy tone and then a good tone, as far as your overall inspiration and your desire to create music, you'll be like, oh man, that effort that I put in to get 10% better doesn't make me write more songs. You know what I mean?
Right.
If that makes any sense. So there is a time when you're doing this. It's like when we're younger and you're just in there noodling on your guitar, learning like Devin Townsend always talks about how he would just spend years and hours of his days sweet picking and doing all this, whacking on the guitar. Yeah. Where if you listen to Devin's work now, he's not really doing hardly any of that. He's capable of doing it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't...
I'm pretty sure he keeps up with it. I'm pretty sure he
absolutely
practices a lot. Just in a brief interjection, but continue.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That sort of proves the point. Like, it's good to putting in those hours of trying to chase that tone is good to an extent. You just have to know like what am I getting? Like I don't know. The 80-20 is like the best way to look at it. If you spend 80% of your time and you are only getting like 20% of the result, because it works both ways. Then
but I think you have to do that for a bit.
You do. Yes, you do. Yeah. You're right. I agree with you. I just don't know. I guess it's kind of on you, the person, personally, to realize like when you get good enough to where, you know what, I'm not going to mess with this right now. I'm just going to write.
To be self-aware enough to realize it's like, okay, this is fine. I can leave that part to progress naturally through the process of doing and not obsess on it so much anymore.
Yeah. Well, you and I have talked about this too. Like when we go back and listen to stuff we recorded with our Pod HD 500s.
I love the Pod HD.
I go back and listen to some of that stuff. I'm like, wow. What at the time I was like, I can't get this thing to sound how I want in my head. I remember so vividly thinking like this doesn't sound good enough. And I go back and listen to some of those recordings now and I'm like, damn, some of this sounds
Those are
pretty
good recordings.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's weird. You kind of almost get tunnel vision trying to find that purple that purple tone.
Yeah.
That
I-
Rev purple.
The Rev Purple or the Rev Red. Ooh, that
yeah.
Rev Red. It's
Absolutely.
Red fire.
Rev kind of just doesn't they don't do anything wrong, do they?
The Canadians.
Well, there you go.
Okay, so we're moving along in this tone thing. I just kind of loop in a little bit of the conversation as we get along here. Definitely found tone chasing, knowing your gear's limits is definitely found through chasing tone. Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
Laid to rest. Options are so overwhelming. Is this the best option or should I try something else? Yeah,
Yep.
option paralysis is a very serious thing, but I think
we speak about that when it comes
a
to
lot.
IRs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think exercising, going through it, is only the point where you really get to know that that's happening. Until you experience option paralysis, you'll never know the difference. And there's this process of chasing the tone for a while, where you will definitely encounter that. And I think it's good to a point, but you definitely hit a wall.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like you and I have done in the past, where maybe referencing some of your old stuff to gain a little perspective on where you have improved. Maybe that'll kind of like wean you off of when you're in those time periods, like Miguel says, Big Mig says he's been stuck in this tone chasing pretty much most of this year. Like if you find yourself in that, go back to some old stuff, because that'll be like, wow.
Yeah, and make sure you have a fair comparison of
Yeah.
like where I was and
You
where
might have
I'm
a tangible example also of how you've improved overall.
very very important.
Tone wise and production wise. So
And also what you got right away, because
Yeah.
there is some of that too, and I think it's like it can be good food for thought. When I spent a lot of time working in really big studios as an employee when I was younger, in my late 20s and into my 30s, and then I had my own studios. One of the things about the big studios and just having like perfect gear with like incredible dynamic range and clarity and all that kind of stuff is pretty much everything I recorded always sounded pretty good. There were few limitations. And then when I went on to my own studio and the gear kind of got knocked down significantly, far less dynamic range, and things would peak out and be noisy a lot easier. So it was an effort of learning how to work with severe limitations, technological limitations, which we don't have now.
right.
But it was great. But going back at that point, I only had impeccable things to compare, and it was kind of a bummer. And I don't think that's going to be the case for most people now. But then moving along from there, as I learned, then I sort of gained that perspective that you're talking about, where moving through that period and just saying F it and being like, okay, I can't make the recordings that I used to make when I had access to a world-class studio. But I'm going to make what I can make and just keep going.
Yeah.
And only after doing that for a while was I able to kind of like moderate my progress a little bit more there. And, I would say even now I'm not a master class recording guy. I kind of don't really care. I just want punishing riffs. But your perspective may, depending on what your past is, your perspective may not be reliable, but it's definitely important to consider.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And maybe because I'm on the other side of it, it's easier for me to kind of look back and say like, hey, it's
easy to
really
say.
not that big of a deal. You guys are wasting your time. You're not. by tone chasing, because like
No.
a lot of you guys are saying, like, it is important. It's definitely important. You got to learn, and I said this in my last video, the in the mix. It's like
Yeah.
you got to know what you're working with.
Yeah.
You
What's
know,
the
start
target?
there. Start there. Yeah, your target. You want to know your target. Have an end game in mind. Like, have the end in mind, and do everything in your power to learn the stuff that you have. Like, I had my Pod HD for 8 years. You
Yep.
know, I
Yeah.
knew how I could fake my way as close to getting a production guitar sound with that thing as I could for the time.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to do. You got to be
Yeah.
creative, and just, I say it in videos all the time, work with what you have. And I know when you guys see some of my stuff, it's like easy for you to say, but I really have a pretty modest setup. I got my Helix, and I go into an interface.
That's
I don't
it.
really do a ton else.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of plugins. I would say 92% of the plugins I have, I don't use.
Yeah. That's an interesting one. Like, you're in
Yeah.
Studio One, I'm in Reaper. We both
Mhm.
have the Slate mix and master bundle.
Mhm.
I don't know if you have a few plugins beyond, like, extended beyond that. You have the Fab Filter stuff.
Mhm.
But I don't really have. I have a few Waves plugins. I think you do as well.
Yep.
But 90% of the time I'm using Reaper plugins, and it's only very specific plugins that I'm reaching for when I go to the third-party stuff.
Yeah. I think the more, this is easy to get caught up in too, and it's like, oh, I need this plugin, I need this EQ, or I need this compressor. The more you use it, it's such a catch-22, because BUNN and I can tell you guys, like, don't worry about that compressor. The one in your DAW is going to be fine.
You should
you'll
learn
be-
that one first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it almost doesn't matter what we say, because more people are going to try it anyway, and then they're going to be like, fuck, they're right. Shit.
It's that long road around, right?
The point, and the reason why I'm saying that is because I do have, like, regularly in every mix use Fab Filter EQ, just because it's the EQ
you love
I know
that
the
EQ.
most.
Yeah.
But compressor wise, I still use the EQ, Pro EQ in Studio One. It's like the more stuff I've used third party, the more likely I am to, like, I use the delay in Studio One all the time. I love their new delay. It's tremendous. It's amazing.
I have found the Studio One plugins to be exceptional. Like all of their regular plugins.
Yeah, I use a lot of their plugins all the time, especially for, like, all that ear candy stuff. I throw it on layering stuff all the time. It's just good.
Yeah. So this loops us into our final part of the intro kind of kickoff questions. Once again, these questions are not only for Nick. I'm posing them to Nick, but they're also for you. And these are sort of introspective questions, things to just kind of, like, think about. There's no right answers. It's more like, where are you at and where do you want to go?
Yeah.
And introspective, self-awareness kind of things, I guess.
That's our favorite thing.
I love
don't know
that
if you guys have picked up on this, but Bud and I are
it's my
very
favorite.
self-reflective, human condition kind of guys.
Yeah. But tone versus composition. So where you're at right now, yes, we talked about, like, getting a great tone definitely helps in terms of kind of, as soon as the tone is good enough, it kind of gets out of your way. Also, if the tone is good enough, you may be a little bit more inspired to play. But what gives you a bigger buzz? Having a perfect tone or having a composition that you're excited about? And if the tone is, like, good enough, it's good enough.
It's easily when I come up with something that I'm inspired by musically. Like,
composition.
Easily. Composition all
100%.
day, every day. I would give up. I don't like playing through plugins, but I would play through plugins if it meant I could come up with more usable, pieces of music regularly.
Yeah, if you lost all of your hardware today and you had to go
Yep.
back to plugins, you'd be like, whatever. I love writing music, and the writing and the what you come up with is the number one thing. I also get the biggest buzz out of that. But for a while, I think personally, I kind of forgot about it when I was tone chasing. My big tone chase was in the transition from analog to digital, specifically modeling.
Yeah.
I was
I
an
can
early
see that.
adopter with the bean pods, and it represented like an immense amount of freedom to me, but it also was a huge challenge in terms of like getting acceptable results where you were like you had a buzz on, but you could do so much more.
Yeah.
It was, I can't remember which iteration of the pods, but it was one of the beans. One of the later beans was my big jump off where I kind of got rid of all the analog gear, all the amps.
Aaron's in the house. What's up, Baritone Cult?
Aaron, baritone cult. Whoa. Reaper EQ doesn't. What is that about? Turbo
Oh, brick wall. They're talking about brick wall EQ or shelf.
Because it does a brick wall shelf EQ. Oh, yeah. The Fab Filter EQ is an exceptional and disruptive design. It is very much in a space of its own. I can't think of anything quite like it. I know Slate
it's not
has
cheap, that's for sure.
yeah,
but
and nor should it be. It's a special piece of equipment or a special piece of software.
yeah.
Baritone Cult.
Let's see. Yeah, I think a lot of you guys will realize the more you play with the native plugins in most of whatever DAW you happen to be using, you're going to be surprised at how well it does its job. You know, unless you're looking for a specific feature.
And to be honest, like the Beatles was recorded. Yeah, it's a crappy example maybe, but like it's a very important record. And their big breakout record was recorded on 4 tracks. You know, the compressors and the EQs were really good, but it was pretty basic and there wasn't much to it. And the big thing was the composition and delivery of the material. So I'm not a huge Beatles fan. I'm not saying that they're not important. They're very important.
No, I'm in the same boat you are. I
yeah.
appreciate what the Beatles obviously did for the time, but I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan either.
Yeah.
That's okay. We're allowed to not be gaga over the Beatles.
That actually loops into something else I want to talk about.
Ah.
Are you ready to move on?
I'm ready. Yeah.
I was kind of reminded by this in last night's stream. I did my own stream last night.
Yep.
Also, so I guess my second test stream. But kind of things came up in such a way where things that maybe you're not crazy about or you don't agree with or you don't necessarily like. And there's something about like you don't have to fully like something or fully be on board with something for there to be something valuable in it for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's super important.
Would you say that outlook is definitely something that comes with age?
Yeah.
A little bit?
Yeah, I could have benefit more from that when I was younger. I think I was a little bit more receptive to certain things than a lot of others, just because I was always like kind of a happy-go-lucky person. I had a dark period, like probably everybody does. But it definitely, that really ramped up with in the last maybe 15 years.
And I think also the more things you're exposed to, like, so, yeah, there's something to be said about that for sure. Like, I grew up in Southern California. I grew up on a lot of, so when you think of SoCal, you think of like punk and hip hop. So
I love those things.
I grew up on a lot of both of those things.
Yeah.
Before I even got into metal.
Right.
And I still to this day have an appreciation for punk of any kind, pop punk, bad punk, loud punk.
Top 3 favorite punk. Just off the top of your head, don't think about it.
Bad Religion.
Yep.
Blink.
Yep.
And
there's no right answers.
No FX.
Amazing. I like all those things. I think I would go Minor Threat, No Effects, and Bad Religion, or not Bad Religion, No Effects, Propaganda.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a sucker for harmony, so Bad Religion's gonna always be at the top of my
Well,
list for.
yeah, I have a bunch of those records. I can't say all. Horrors band. Yeah, Horrors is a great band. They have that kind of helmet. They're like a post helmet kind of sound.
Right.
And it's dudes from, I don't know if you knew Capsule. Capsule's a Florida based project. They're no longer. But Capsule was awesome.
Man, the bands you guys pull out, like in your stream, and you and the guys in your streams were just rattling off all these bands, and I was making a note on the Mac while I was watching.
Right.
Like, dude, I haven't heard of so many of these bands, and I think I know a lot of bands.
Yeah, I come from like
awesome.
the more sort of everything that came out of punk and hardcore, but that aren't necessarily punk and hardcore, but they were all out of those sort of scenes. And I was always a digger. I'd always dig through the bins, whether it be actual physical record bins or whether it be Bandcamp, the figurative record bin. Like I dig deep for different kinds of things. And
it would be lovely if we could do like a show about doing that, being a crate digger, if you will.
Yeah. Go find some
it'd
gems.
be really cool. Like find some gems, like do a show about some recent finds, be able to play the music. I don't know how we'd work around it, but it'd be cool to do something like that because I'm always excited to this day when I come across a band that I haven't heard of and I'm like, holy crap, this is sick. It's like opens up a whole new door, you know?
Yeah. It changes your life forever. Or
it really does. And that's what's so cool about music is, you know, you can discover stuff all these years later. And I know, you know, something is said about the stuff that you are into, excuse me, during your formative years. Like that stuff's always going to be there, and it's going to kind of like be your foundation almost, if you will. But I'm one of these people because I know a lot of my buddies, my music buddies too, they just don't listen to new music at all.
That's an interesting thing. You know, Artie and I talk about this a lot, how, you know, we're all of similar age. I'm a little bit older, but similar story to exactly what you're talking about, where most of the people around us from our, you know, our friend groups who were passionate about music at one point, like playing in bands, touring, doing everything, like buying a lot of records, all that kind of stuff, where a lot of people just kind of like stopped, and that was it. Actually, Capsule was ridiculously good, unlike Bad Religion. That is such a self-inflatable comment. I get infinite joy out of it. His funny juxtapositions. I know his attitude so well. Jamie Hill and Bunn. Yeah. Nick Hill and I are gonna get a collab going. I just gotta. I gotta teach him my Bunn theory.
Your process. Yeah. So I think what's gonna happen is, when we finally solidify some sort of collab, it's going to be, the groundwork is mostly going to be laid by Bunn, but I'm going to lay all the ear candy on top of it, you know?
No.
Or
you're going to do it, like, as long as we know what the scale is, that's good. We just have to agree on the notes and the scale. And you're like, no, chromatic.
I don't want to.
I love it.
It can be in a scale, of course. But it's
I know you're capable.
I just also love throwing in those notes that are just dissonance.
Those tasty breadcrumbs. Follow me on my journey. Yeah, that's the only thing.
It's compromise. We're gonna have to compromise.
Oh God. But I Spy, I Spy was amazing. Canadian punk rock bass player in current Propaganda was one of the guitar players in I Spy, and I Spy and Propaganda had a split called Revenge of the Shits. No, I could be wrong. No, it was I'd Rather Be Flag Burning. Very patriotic.
I love it. Oh man.
it should be no surprise that propaganda is very kind of disruptive in the kind of mental space of reality, which I appreciate.
I was gonna
TPC,
glom
thanks,
on some more to
bro.
that point of like there's so much we can go so much deeper with the idea of just because it's not your cup of tea doesn't mean you can't glean something from it, or
Oh yeah,
that it's like I think we see this a lot, that it's like wrong, you know?
yeah,
Like
like
that's not how it should be done or you should do it. You know, that sort of
yeah,
ties into that.
having enough curiosity to kind of save you from hanging yourself is probably good, so that it's not just like irresponsibly kind of just wiping stuff off the table. That
Yeah.
there might be some crumbs in there that are going to lead you to some kind of interesting point of view. Um,
Yeah.
there, like
Can you
there's
think
been.
of a
Oh, sorry.
No, sorry. I was just
Yeah.
trying to think like can you think of an example of something that you might have been closed-minded? I know you're typically an open-minded guy for
Yeah, but
most
I,
things.
I've had my things like anybody else.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you can think of one of those. Because I think
Yeah,
most people would be surprised.
I think a good example, like I could just use bands as an example. Bands are always something that people can relate
Mhm.
to. And I think what I'm about to share happens to a lot of people. Maybe some people are more close to it than others, but two bands that come to mind would be three bands that come to mind. Some may or may not know, but like Coalesce, Botch, and Refused. All three of those bands fall into this situation. If you know any one of those bands, great. If you only know one, most people I probably know Refused. But all three of those bands, there was, upon first listening, there was always something that was curious about them. Um, but most of the things about them I just didn't like, from an aesthetics point of view, from um, you know, wanting to like a lot of times you attach yourself to a band where you can sort of say something about yourself by saying, I like this band. That's what a
Yeah.
lot of people do. Um, and because music has a lot to do with how your personality and your friend group and all of those things are kind of shared and connect with other people. Botch is my fave. Yeah, Botch is amazing. Coalesce is amazing as well. Um, but for some reason, like I was always kind of impervious to that part. I'm like, I don't care what it says about me. It doesn't matter to me. Probably because I'm Asperger's. I kind of look at the world a little bit different, um, as far as I know. And anyhow, there was something in it that was curious. All three of those bands, but I was just like, ah. So I kept buying the records. Um, Even though I didn't like them, I'd put them on. I'm like, this is trash. I'd fucking throw it over the shoulder. And
Yeah.
then for each of those bands, at some point, they did a record where the totality of the idea or the sort of curiosity that I had within it fully showed itself, and it blossomed
Yeah.
into something that was really exciting for me. And it would be functioning on impatience, the Coalesce record, Botch, um, American Nervoso, kind of. We Are the Romans, mostly that record, and Refused, Shape of Punk to Come, which is no surprise to anybody who knows Refused. That's kind of their big record. But those three records happen in those bands' history, and it happened enough times at some point in my life where I'm like, okay, don't be an ignorant uh, person, and at least like if there's something that kind of your ears go up for at least a second, um, you know, keep paying attention because you may glean something really interesting from it. And all three of those bands had a massive impact on my creative path,
Mm.
in some way.
Yeah.
So, and I'm pretty sure that's the case for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, I have probably too many examples to list.
Right.
But It's let me think of like okay, here's a recent band that I ironically enough, you know, Bun, you know this, like they're probably my top 5 bands of all time now at this point. Like when I first started listening to Periphery, when they started to kind of get big on their second album, I wanted to be into it badly, and I'm like, I don't understand what's happening. It
Yeah,
took me a minute, but
I
then
will agree.
with like Alpha and Omega, it sort of clicked. And then when I went back and listened to P2 and then the first album, and then I went back and listened to all of Misha's stuff, I was like, wow, what a groundbreaker, you know? Like,
Yeah, in terms of like composition and riffs, like I can't deny I love that about Periphery for the most part. Um I'm not a fan of the vocals. I'm just not an
that's
easy sell on vocals.
no,
Um
I get it. J Dub says that too. And at the
yeah,
beginning, that was the thing that threw it for me. But I think I heard all it took was one song that I was like, "Oh, those vocals are so good," and it gave me an appreciation for the rest of it. Tony, my wife, was the same way. Like she's like, "Oh, it sounds sort of like Spencer sounds like the guy from like Newfound Glory or something like that," and I'm like, "How dare you?"
yeah.
But I kind of understood what she was coming from. But now Periphery is one of her favorite bands.
Oh,
You know, it's
interesting.
just like
Yeah.
something just happens. So that's definitely one major example, like on the heavier side of things. On like the pop side of things, and I don't care what anybody thinks. You know, I'll preface that with this with that. Um, when Lady Gaga first started getting big, I was
Yeah.
just like, just another pop act. But
It was curious though. I
it
was
was
curious.
curious, and
Yeah.
I kind of just dove in one day because
Yeah.
I grew up in the '80s. You know,
Yeah.
I love pop music. I love good female singers and great production, and I love Lady Gaga to this day. You know, and at the beginning, I'm like, what is happening here? You know,
You don't even understand it yourself.
but she
You're
was
like,
also
why do I
sort
like
of
this?
like Marilyn Manson for the pop world. You know what I mean? And people might
Yeah,
throw
she's
shade at me
really,
for saying
really
that, but
disruptive. I think,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, whatchamacallit, my pal Artie, you obviously, I don't have to preface it that way. But Artie and I, we often talk about bands like that. And another one I think that is somewhat similar is Destiny Child. The first release of
yeah,
Destiny Child, the Automobiles tune. As funny
yeah.
as the lyrics are, the way that that tune was composed and just packaged up, it was pretty exciting and incredibly disruptive for the pop world,
Hmm.
R&B pop world. So those
Yeah.
kinds of things will show themselves pretty frequently. But if you're not listening, if you're completely shut off to it, if you are just an ignorant pooper,
Yeah.
you might miss something that might be informative or interesting, or even if you don't like ultimately like it. So using the Lady Gaga or Destiny Child thing as an example. So maybe you still don't even really like, let's say hypothetically, I'm like, I don't really like the music, but I just love some of the ideas, the creative ideas expressed within it.
Yeah.
There are so many times where I've bought records just because I've heard like a moment. I'm like, that's the best part ever. I've bought entire records for one
Yeah.
part.
I know I have too. I
Yeah.
know I have.
I'm like, that part is so good. I need to kind of like really unpack it and really dig into it and then really unpack it.
You know,
So
and I mean, I used some pretty extreme examples, I realize, you know, but
no, I
I,
think
I,
they're
I,
100% relevant examples.
I mean, yeah, I do too, but I just think the point is like, I think you kind of touched upon it earlier. It's like in your adolescent years, maybe your late teens, early 20s, you're very much like displaying the stuff you are into because of how people might perceive you, and maybe you didn't, Bun.
I
But
did
it's a
to a
very
degree. I did to a
yeah.
degree, whether I knew it or not. I
I
did it to a
think
degree for sure.
everyone to a degree,
Yeah.
varying degrees, does it.
Yeah.
So I think it's like you're not supposed to like this, that, or the other thing, you know?
Yeah. There are sort of like fashions that emerge in subcultures that people prize with a great deal of like protection, you know?
Yeah. I mean, another example. It's not really an example of what we're talking about, but something out of left field that people wouldn't expect of me is I'm a massive Tom Petty fan. Like, to me, Tom Petty is one of the best songwriters ever to have graced this earth.
It's funny, like I only recently kind of was paying more attention to Tom Petty.
Yeah.
It just was never really on my radar. But then, like where I work, my day job, the main guy that I work with, he likes to listen to all of this, like a pretty big mix of stuff. But, you know, that kind of stuff ends up in there sometimes. And I noticed in a Tom Petty tune, I'm like, this, like, I finally get it about this guy. Lyrically, he's a pretty good storyteller. Like,
oh, absolutely.
In a way that is very different than typical. I'm not a lyrical guy. I'm not generally interested in vocals, but I did notice it for the first time ever. And I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's an incredible, I don't know. It's kind of like Act 1, Scene 2, you know, finale type of stuff, but like he really sets it up in a great way. And it's wrapped up in this lyrical package that, you know, makes for a song. And if you're willing to go along for the ride, it can be kind of interesting, and it brings a whole new dimension to the musical material.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Like, be willing to give it a legitimate shot. You know,
even what do you have to lose?
If really you don't have anything to lose but maybe 3.5 minutes, but you have so much to gain. Yeah, you know,
if it's Linkin Park though.
Okay, see, that's, you know, I love Linkin Park. I do. And I don't care what you say.
I don't care what you say.
But I didn't when they first came out. Yeah, it was later albums that, I know, it's funny. I just like it. It's just funny that you know,
you don't need to have a reason.
Right, you could go back and forth about, like, you know, if you look in the chat, there's a lot of people that are really passionate about some of their favorite bands, and that's sick. It's great. It's super, super awesome.
If you don't have a favorite something, I think something's wrong. Like I highly advise people to go really deep on a thing, because that can lead you to other really great things.
Yeah, Dylan. I mean, people are Linkin Park. Oh, come on, Aaron.
I opened the gates.
No, you know what? It's okay.
The gates.
I think
it's good to talk about.
I think it's good. It's most of this is obviously tongue in cheek. No, tongue in cheek. Nobody really hates. Well, you shouldn't really hate somebody because they like a particular band. I certainly don't. I definitely give people people shit for liking certain music. Just ask my wife. Like,
everybody does.
She like used to really love In This Moment, and maybe still does, but I remember really trying to give them a listen because, hey, there's this hot chick. I want to be with her, and I want to like things she likes, and I want to get, you know,
but
laid,
I just
of course.
Can't hang on this thing.
I tried, and I tried, and I tried, and now I just make fun of her so much because she liked them at one point, you know. But it's like,
so you're guilty. Guilty as charged.
Yeah, of course. I definitely, the reason why I'm so like, oh, you shouldn't hate so much on somebody for liking a band.
I don't hate on anyone because of something like that.
Right.
That is an awful reason to dislike a person.
But it is fun. It is fun. You guys
fun. It's fun to poke a little bit of fun.
Absolutely. And forever you guys can poke fun at anything that I say I like, because A, I don't give a shit what you think about what I like.
Yeah. And B, it's healthy fun.
It's just fun because I'm going to do it. If like people are Limp Bizkit, you can just no. I think they did more damage. Here's the thing. I remember, this is funny. This is going to go into story time. Working at Best Buy years and years ago with Lenny. And Limp Bizkit did this cover of the Who song "Behind Blue Eyes," and it pained me that they took that song and shit on it like that. And I'm like, well, and there are people who like it.
Yeah.
I'm just going through the bands. It's cool, man. You know what? It's cool. I like that everybody is. It's like Bunn said. I like that people are passionate about their band so much to the point where they'll crap on some other band. Who was worse, Limp Bizkit or Kid Rock? Again, I don't want to crap on anybody, but
yeah. I liked Wes Borland. I thought he was a great guitar player. So there you go.
he was, as you like to say, disruptive
Very
for
disruptive.
sure.
Yeah. Actually creative. But whatever.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Limp Bizkit was better than Linkin Park. You can leave the chat.
Oh, I like this. This is a disruptive conversation.
Limp Bizkit was sort of the beginning of this whole. Maybe they weren't, but if I associate like the precipice of like, what's that term we use, Bun? Where it's like the 5-finger death punches of the world, like jock metal.
Yeah,
like,
there was definitely like
tribal tattoo dudes.
Yeah, I have one of those, but you
But you don't really fit that mold.
or maybe I do.
And we all make mistakes.
Yeah, I got that when I was 17.
Well, there you go.
It's pretty wild,
There you
man.
go.
It's been with me.
It is
It's
funny.
marked for life.
I have a bad soil work tattoo that's also backwards, so
Oh, great.
that's why most
so
of you
we
guys
both
will never
made,
see it.
Yeah, we both made great decisions.
I wish my excuse was I was 17.
I still don't have an excuse. It's just a terrible tattoo.
Oh, man.
But whatever. I don't know. Tramp stamp. Gene. Yeah. For me, like, no matter where it is on my body, it's on my forearm, but it's still a tramp stamp. It's terrible. Soilwork is a pretty solid band, though.
Definitely more than solid, but
But
that's fine.
moving along, I just love today's conversation. It's so fun.
No, it's good conversation.
Everyone's just going wild. This is when I was young into Slayer. I'm still into Slayer. A lot of people think I'm weird that way. Everybody else like Motley Crue. Funny, like in my adult life, I became more fond of like Motley Crue as a rock band. I never really liked rock bands when I was young, and I was like, oh, Motley Crue is actually like pretty disruptive rock band, and I was just too young to know it. And Slayer was really loud and in your face and demonic, and I went to a Catholic elementary school. So
Oh, sure.
it was very obviously like,
Yeah, that makes a whole
heavily-
lot of sense.
yeah, contrasting and edgy and all that stuff.
Slayer is one of those bands that a lot of the people around me really loved, and it's not that I didn't like them. I mean, Raining Blood, I think, is one of the best metal thrash songs of all time.
Yeah.
But I'm you know, I'm not a
Yeah,
huge
I know
fan.
a ton of people who are not excited about Slayer. I just I think it happened at the right time for me. Like I was there when it was happening.
Yeah.
And it was very disruptive and very loud and in your face and a big statement. We were talking earlier about, attaching yourself to things that kind of made a statement for whatever reason. I think that was one of those things for me, to some extent.
Thank you, brother. I'll take your $5. You can still have your 7 strings.
Seven strings is.
I'm
totally
not
fine.
as strict. I'm not as strict. Yeah. You know what?
I don't play them.
That's just all it is. I've tried
Yeah.
a 7-string, and I'm like, it's too wide.
Yeah,
I mean, I do love. I would love a Keith Merrow, but a 6-string.
yeah.
I just
will
prefer
always-
6-string, and I want even longer. I see. I think it's because I love bass so much that I don't
Oh,
care. You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, bass makes the track.
give me more scale length.
Yeah.
Give me more scale length. I'm good with it.
Amazing. What's up, dudes? Dan Murray, welcome to the chat.
What's up,
welcome
brother?
to the stream. We're getting up to all kinds of like smack talk today. It's very tumultuous. It's not smack talk, but it's
No,
like
it's fun.
the
It's all
difference of
fun.
opinions. Oh, it's very fun. I don't know about, what do you guys think? To me, this is like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I hope you guys are seeing it for what it is, really.
Oh, I think they're that smart for
Yeah,
sure.
I know.
Yeah. 6 string, 28 to 28.5. Yeah, 28.625. Don't you have
You know
one of
what?
those,
You know,
Aaron?
yeah, Aaron does. That's his go-to baritone.
He has a
right?
28.5 Jag baritone. He has 28 Mayonnaise, but I think he has a, maybe not. Maybe there is.
J-Dub. I'm still contemplating it, man. You know, if my YouTube revenues don't pick up, I'll do that OnlyFans foot fetish thing. Speaking of the baritone thing, there you go.
I think that's it. I wonder if we could play it in harmony. Just play it wherever you want. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, stop.
We were in some sort of harmony. I'm just not sure what. That's Dream Theater. Baritone,
Yeah, that was
Dream
some
Theater.
serious prog right there. Petrucci, put your guitar on eBay. Just quit.
Oh, the BO riffs is blowing up on the Facebook group.
Yeah, BO Riffs is going wild, which
Oh,
is
man.
which is great. I hope you can get some riffs up there soon.
I'm
'cause
gonna jump on tomorrow with the BO riff. I have one ready to go. I'm gonna.
I would say, Nick, you and Steven are kind of like I kind of put it out into the world, but you guys really are the ones who made it happen.
Dude, I'm telling
For sure.
Like those BO riffs, the weeks we were like regularly cranking them out. You know, obviously, friggin' YouTube got in the way of the BO riffs, so I apologize. But,
Yeah.
like I told you, I probably have 3 tracks going into 2021 that's going to be able to be sludgy stuff because of BO riffs.
Yeah.
It's just it's just liberating. Like, this is the kind of shit I'm going to play. I'm going to write sludgy, gross riffs in 12/8 or 6/8, and I'm good.
Yeah.
And I'm good, you know?
Yeah. I love how with that style of music that all of the need to like be technical or the need to like push outside, so like push far out, it all just goes away. And you're like, what's it about? It's just about the riff and that's it.
Dude, these dudes are funny.
What's going on? Not as good as Trap, though. Trap leaves me feeling headstrong and ready to take on anyone. Yeah, Trapped is pretty tough sounding. Bad Religion is definitely not better than Trap.
Self-inflatable is just trying to get my goat. I see what you're doing here. I see what you're doing here.
I see what you're doing.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great.
We just tangent real quick.
Yeah, do it.
Baritone stuff. Steven and I were talking today.
Yeah.
And I think I'm gonna build my next baritone.
Gonna do a Warmoth or something like that.
I'm gonna get a Warmoth neck. You can
Yep.
get a traditional Warmoth neck for a 28 and a half.
28.625.
Yeah, that scale length.
Yep.
150 shipped. Okay.
What?
150 shipped with no finish.
Right.
But and no nut.
Is it sanded?
It's sanded.
Okay. So it just needs actual finish, not finishing. Different.
Yes. Okay. My mistake. Yeah.
Very, very important.
I assumed you would understand what I was saying when I said that. Yeah. And then he sent me links to these like
Guitar fetish
budget
body.
Dude. Yeah. And then this guy on eBay who hand makes these bodies from templates of his own guitars, but the price is like sick.
Yeah, 60 to 80 bucks.
So you could build
US.
a basic custom baritone for probably under $700,
Yep.
and that's on the high end. So I think I'm gonna piece one together. I have a couple pieces picked out.
And you know
like-
a really good tech, so if you run into any trouble, you can just run over.
Yeah,
over
I know
there, right?
techs, and yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've done all that stuff in the past before too. Like my first electric guitar, I basically Frankensteined after I was like getting into it. I'm like, okay,
Yep.
and I switched everything on that thing, and I've done it ever since. I've wired pickups and done repairs and setups. So worst comes to worst, though, yeah, I do have a tech.
If you run into trouble.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I think I'm gonna piece one together for sure and make it my own. I'm gonna do just a stop tail for the first one, see how it goes, and then if I dig it, build another one, and then the first one I'm gonna turn into a Evertune.
Yep.
So we'll see how that goes. But
And Evertune has like a pretty extensive educational series in order, like, for the installation process.
yeah. Oh, the build is gonna happen. It's just a matter of time, and I don't think it'll be that long. But it will. I'll absolutely put everything on the channel about it.
Self-inflatable and JW are talking about
Oh,
finishing.
neck
All you need to
finishing,
do
yeah.
is use oil, like tongue oil, gunstock oil. Gunstock oil is very popular these days, but
Mm-hmm.
tongue oil, they're almost interchangeable. Tongue oil and gunstock oil.
Yeah.
And
Okay, that's good
some
to know.
people even do lemon oil. Depends what you want to do, but I think those
Oh, that's also
two.
good to know. Canary wood.
Yeah, canary
Okay.
wood needs no finish.
Yeah. Interesting.
Canary wood or
Yeah,
canary
and I mean,
wood.
you can order the neck from Warmoth any way you want it. Like I was just looking for the cheapest way
Yeah.
to get a neck.
Yeah.
Of that length. So yeah, if I wanted to put a little bit more money into the neck, I could get it finished. I prefer a satin neck. I don't want like a finished feel to it for sure,
Yeah, so oil is a better.
Because
better
you
road
oil
for you.
it and then you kind of buff it out, right? You buff it smooth.
Well, it never gets slick. It's
Mm.
always kind of satin. With an actual satin finish, it's like a satin finish. But with an oiled neck, it's kind of like having that satin raw wood. It's like very much a raw wood kind of thing. It's just sealed, so it's not going to take on moisture. The whole point
Yeah.
of the tongue oil or whatever is so that the neck doesn't take on moisture. So it's, resilient to the environment. KDH, I don't know what that is. Way up when you get a finish. Yes. So if you get a finished neck, J-Dubs is saying, from Warmoth,
Yep.
it gets quite a bit expensive. That being said, if you go with a shorter neck, like a 27.5 all parts neck, I think it comes finished and it's quite inexpensive. It's about somewhere between 195 and 230 US. Haven't looked for a while, but yeah.
Yeah, Ryan, Guthrie's a god as far as guitar goes.
Yeah,
and
Guthrie is my favorite.
Roasted maple is
lead
also
player.
super,
It's
not as
expensive.
sensitive to. It's expensive, but it's also not as sensitive to movement.
It seems to be a pretty stable, because
Yes.
they roast a lot of the moisture out of it, and
Yeah,
then they
there
seal
you
it,
go.
and then you seal it, and then
Temp
so-
changes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. So that was a tangent for sure, but that's what I'm looking at.
I like
Yeah.
that tangent. It's
Yeah.
a good tangent. I did a conversion, and I going forward, I will do what you're talking about. I won't do another conversion. I'll just do a full
We
build.
should, man. That
Yeah.
would be do tandem builds.
Oh, give me a second.
Yeah. I was gonna say Stephen Bartman from
Big.
Gear Stuff and Things has ton of information on baritones and building baritones and putting baritones together. So he has a couple videos on baritones he's built.
I got to I got to let you go. Bye. I love you. Bye. Okay. I'm gonna do this so that it doesn't overload the action.
Oh, I don't mind what Carrie calls. It's good.
Carrie's all right. Carrie's she's a princess. Not a princess. She's a queen.
One
But
hell of an artiste.
awesome artist. Love you, Jason. Jason's such a good dude. Jason's a Canadian living in the United States, living in Michigan, actually. Same state as Aaron.
Aaron
Baritone Cult. Baritone Cult is in Michigan. Yep. I'm not sure how, like, what centers you guys are close to or whatnot, but yeah, both Michiganites, two baritone dudes in the stream feed.
Sick.
But Jason Oshosky is getting a custom build done right now. Baritone.
Kalamazoo. All the good stuff in the late '80s, early '90s was made in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Yeah.
When you'd see the commercials on TV, buy it now. 1-800 blah blah blah, or send your
Kalamazoo,
check or
Michigan.
money order to P.O. Box 35353, Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Yeah. I wonder if they had like a tax shelter there, kind of like how
Probably, right?
Texas and Florida are these days. Electric Kazoo. Hey Nick, check out Precision Guitars. They have a Strat guitar kit with a 28-inch option. Yeah, Precision is a Canadian Vancouver company, and Andrew Baina, I think, works for them. But yeah, they have a couple of baritone options there. From what I understand, it's
Cool.
pretty popular topic in the Baritone Obsessed Facebook group.
Do you find many people are putting guitars together?
Yeah. Whoa, did
Yeah?
you hear that? I just had a teen
Yeah,
crack in my voice.
It's going to happen once in a while. It's going to happen. You're a growing boy.
Growing man, only 48 years old, going on 49.
I'm always like, I'm thrilled when that happens to me. Like, aw.
Yeah, like when you get a
happens once in a
zit.
while.
When I get a zit, I'm just like,
Yeah,
"Ooh,
that's pretty
nice."
rare for me. But yeah, when I'm like, oh, sweet, I can
Pop
still
it.
get them.
You're like,
Yeah.
yeah, gotcha.
I'm like, what is that thing?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, being on the verge of 50 is an interesting place to be.
Yeah, I'll check them out.
You're on the verge of 40. We're a decade apart. It's wild.
We're only 9 years apart.
Yeah, 9 in a bit. In a slip.
This is my Swedish metal tone, but it sounds very genty with this baritone.
Yeah, it's because it has that wah wah wah. It has the
yeah.
bow wow wow.
But if
Yeah.
I play the other
The
guitar, it
gate,
doesn't.
yeah, the gate is having a really hard time catching that Swedish chainsaw.
Yeah, it is. It's like. Yep.
Yeah, I'm the youngest man alive, by the way, according to Self-Inflatable, and according to me. I was born in year 0.
Well, if you let your hair down, people would probably really believe you.
I have had that. I've had people stop me on the street. I'm on my bike, and they're like, "Hey, are you he?" I'm like, "Am I he? Who is
This
he?"
like
And they're like,
Canadian.
no, full serious.
Okay.
I'm not joking. It's happened a few times in a very creepy way. That sounds Swedish.
We play hard. I think that's half of each of our tones. Like it's when
Yeah.
I play. No, okay. So, circling back,
Yeah.
you're right. You do play harder than me because when I play through your tones, I'm like This is how it sounds when I play.
Yeah, you have to hit
like-
hard.
Yeah, BUNN. You need
Yeah,
to basically
it's not good.
no.
Synth Chris is in the feed. What's up,
Chris,
Synth Chris?
what's up, brother?
Chris McVicker. He's my homie, Seattle kid.
Yeah, most of the time, not to toot my own horn, but I think most of my tones are going to sound pretty sick. So, but I'll be
Yeah.
the first to admit when they don't.
Well,
That's
what's
for
interesting is I've talked at length with this with a lot of my friends who have experience with modeling, and generally what happens is with presets that other people have made,
Yeah.
there has never been a time in the past where I've used somebody else's presets and I'm like, oh, there it is. It's happening. Usually I'm just like, what is this? I can't even play this. Throw this in the garbage. But all of your tones I can use. So there's something similar about, I don't know what,
I think
what you do. Like they just sound like exactly what I expect and I could use them,
yeah.
which is interesting.
Yeah, I think we kind of, for as different as our sounds are, we kind of look for like some similar underlying elements to our tones, which probably has a lot to do with why we both mutually appreciate each other's sounds.
Right.
You know, yeah. I do have some bad tones on this helix, just so everybody knows.
Yeah, everybody's got a few, you know.
You know what's funny? Ryan brings up Ola's sound, and the last single Ola put out, I thought sounded better than like the stuff before that, because I feel like his solo album was a little like dark and woofy sounding, in my opinion. And I love the guy. I'm a super nerdy fan. I'm a fanboy. So for me to say that, I realize it's like heartbreaking. But
yeah, that record I think was mostly Marshall's, which is interesting. I haven't listened to it, but I do know a little bit about, or I think I know a little bit about the story of that.
I also think he's
him
been
doing that record.
I thought maybe he was using plugins on.
He got it. His guy that he gets it mixed by reamped all the
That's
record
right.
with
That's right. I
Marshalls.
do remember
Marshall DSL 2000 maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like darker tone. That's not meant as like a. If you throw dark in with woofy, then I think you're kind of in some not favorable territory. But then again, it's subjective. I get why people like it. You know what I mean? That low, that flunk, flunk, that really move those speakers sound. I appreciate people appreciating it, but you guys all know, you hear my shit and listen to my stuff and have my tones. Mine are usually, if they're, is that the right way on the camera? Like high end up here, low end down here, like they're kind of tilting towards the high end, I guess.
Yeah, upper mids. Yeah, and I think it comes up on this channel and my channel all the time. It's like one person's, joy is another person's garbage.
Oh yeah, yeah, all the time.
Always. You're never going to capture everybody's enthusiasm. And I think if you try, I think that's a huge mistake.
Yeah. And that also kind of circles back to something we were talking about earlier. It's like just ultimately you'll end up finding you get the most joy and then subsequently traction by doing what sounds good to you,
Yeah. That's how you connect with your people. Not people belonging to you, obviously, but like your group, your tribe, if you will, like the people that are like you. If you just do what you do, you connect with people like you, and that's what it's all about. Because Otherwise, life is incredibly lonely, especially when you're into niche, nerdy things.
For sure.
You know,
Hmm.
bum, bum, bum.
Let's see what J-Dub has. J-Dub has a long comment here. Let's read it. I'd like to learn your tone building philosophy that can be applied to all situations, Nick, because I always build that old school chug tone like Ola. Okay. It's definitely not a bad thing, but I think what I've ended up doing is I think more I think in the context of the mix a lot. And I know like you kind of have to think backwards. And that also comes from like trying to mix stuff well for a lot of years and not doing good. Not sounding good, not having good sounding mixes. And then it ended up being if you work backwards, you're like, what's causing this? And it was low end. Low end usually getting out of control, building up. When they talk about low end frequencies collecting and building up, the stuff you don't hear, it's true. It's
I think something to add to that is specific to this low end part of the topic is what makes a guitar sound really great is the bass sound, and the bass actually not having that much bass in it. Like when you realize like how little bass is in the bass in most mixes, it's astonishing. I realize there are a lot of mixes where the bass is kind of mixed under the guitars and almost non-existent. You like heavy bass mixes. I like even heavier bass mixes.
Yeah.
That aside, kind of one of the things that makes the guitar often is the bass. And like I say, some people will wrap them right up so the guitar is dominant, but the bass is definitely there. And it has a huge part to play in making the guitar sound huge. And it's not a lot of bass.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always cutting on my bass guitar. You know, I don't think I do any boosting on anything. Maybe a little bit on the overall like
on the master.
I don't. Yeah. Okay. Yes, on the master I do, but yeah, it's definitely about controlling the low end. And somebody mentioned, J-Dub was talking about headphones. That also comes into play. Like, you have to know how things sound on what you're listening on. These headphones are pretty sought after as far as mixing, and people tell, other people, like, these are good for mixing, blah, blah, blah. They're studio monitor headphones. They're blah, blah, blah. They have a huge bump in the high end, like a real shrill bump in the high end. And if you don't know that, you're going to end up mixing stuff darker because you're compensating for that in your ears.
Yeah.
So it's just stuff you need to like. So again, you're thinking backwards. You have to think about this stuff.
And not sponsored. Sonar works.
Sonar works as like.
You like how I enunciated that?
Sonar works, yeah.
Yeah.
So Sonar works is definitely a tool that, if you guys don't know what it is, it's worth going to the website Sonar Works and giving the trial a chance, because it will try to get whatever you're listening on as flat as possible so you can get a better idea of what things are going to sound across the board, is the way I tell people it's going to kind of be, because it's going to sound weird at first. Would you say, Bun, when you first throw on Sonar Works, you're like, what the shit?
Well, it sounds very different. So if you're completely invested in your current listening experience, it's going to be weird that way. It's for sure super different as soon as it flattens out. But I find it immediately refreshing that, like, I can tell right away that the choices that I'm making are the right choices.
Yes, that is what I use it for. I don't
and
have
I
it
can
on
tell
all the
right
time.
away.
Yeah, I will when I get we've talked about this. We might have talked about this where publicly
Yeah.
to some degree, but I will throw it on towards the end of my mix process and start bouncing between it on and off
Yeah.
for a couple of reasons. Because, like you said, I know I'm heading in the right direction. I know it's going to translate overall to different devices and different people's audio setups, and I can. It also kind of wakes my head up to what these are doing, you know,
Right. Yeah.
because then I can hear how much of that high end is boosted, and there's a little bit of like lower mid dip in these things.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah. It's like a reality check.
Yeah.
So
I definitely go back. I don't think you have the luxury to go back and forth between your studio monitors as much, depending on what time of day that you're working.
correct.
For me, typically I'm going back and forth between studio monitors and headphones, and I typically work mostly on the studio monitors, and they're pretty flat. There's definitely a bump in the upper mids, but they're definitely my monitors are flatter than my headphones are naturally.
Yeah.
But then when I use the SonarWorks, um,
Do you have it treating your monitors?
no, I don't have that package.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I just have the headphone one.
I would
But-
like to test it out on my setup down here because it's not favorable for mixing in monitors down here. We've talked about this.
Yeah,
Like,
you're
you guys can
ducking
see
and all that.
you can see that that resonates.
And it
which
whistles, yeah.
It's just yep. I tried to make an impulse down here, and it captured that in there. So there's this big spike. And when I was playing it, I'm like, it sounded as if I was playing with the amp up against it. It's funny, or the cab. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, tangent.
I don't trust my monitors in my room. They always cause me to pull out way too much upper mids. And Ryan, would you say that is the monitors or the room, or maybe column A and B?
Yeah, if I was to speculate, not knowing anything about Ryan's setup, it's probably the room.
Right.
And that's I think even you'll search YouTube, and that's what most studio guys and engineers or designers of studios will say. It's almost always the room. Monitors are good. You
Right.
can learn what a monitor sounds like in a relatively decent room.
Yeah. I think I've been using these monitors it's been about 25 years. I've owned these,
Cripes.
like the monitors that I was working on prior to these were these, just
Yeah.
like somebody else owned a set as well.
Yep.
In the studio that I had, the first studio that I had. And then I went out, I liked them, and I just bought the same monitors. And I've had these for about 20 years, but they're the Yamaha MSP5s. And are they the greatest monitors in the world? No, but one thing for sure is that I've used them in so many rooms and so many scenarios, and I've listened to them for so long that I used to have treated rooms. I used to have like studio environments, and now I just don't even care because I know what they sound like. And I don't feel like I'm always satisfied with my end mixes, and having a second reference. Well, actually a third reference because of SonarWorks, because you can listen with the curve and
Yes.
like with the flattened treatment, and then with the natural curve of the headphones. So you get essentially three references, and you're like, I know what this sounds like. I'm not confused in any way.
They also have a curve built in there that apparently replicates like a 1970s set of like highly sought after speakers. So I'll throw that
Yeah.
on once in a while too, just to like,
Yamaha NS10s.
I don't know. I can't
See-
think of it off the top of my head. I could pull it up and look, but I don't know
Yeah.
if it'll fuck with the audio. But yeah, it's good to just reference different things. And like I mean, you made the best point of all is like learning what stuff sounds like on it,
Yeah, just listen
so
to
like
a lot
listen
of
to a
stuff.
lot of music on them.
Yeah.
Yep. I will always just purposely listen to stuff on here, casually. Like I'll set aside time. Like if I'm working on some, I don't know, social media stuff for the channel or thumbnails, whatnot. I always reference everything through here. I'll listen to it both untreated and with Sonar Works because you can run it through your main outputs, so you
Yeah.
can kind of learn to what it's doing, and yeah, it's good. You just got to listen to stuff, which is
Yeah.
not a bad thing. You
Yeah.
got to
And the
listen to
guys,
music. Oh no.
yeah, I love like any chance. I get so few chances to listen to music because I'm working on music or video, which requires me to pay attention to audio.
Yep, exactly.
So if I can listen to music, I definitely do. Ryan and I think some of the other guys are bringing up NX plugin by Waves. I believe it's by Waves, and it is a similar corrector type of
Yeah.
software.
Yep.
So
I
if you're
think
looking for
Slate has
options,
something now as well.
right?
Um, I think they actually have a set of headphones that does some sort of processing.
Right. All of that being said, I think the number one best thing you can do is to listen to a lot of stuff.
Yep.
And when you're doing a mix, bring a track of your favorite, like make another track, bring your favorite music that you think is the closest comparison to get your mix to. In doing that, there is a caveat, is keep in
It's a
mind
big
that
one
that is
too.
the music that you're comparing to is mastered music. So do not try to get overall brightness the same or overall loudness the same in a mix.
Right.
That is the property of a mastering process, not the mix process. If anything, the mix itself should be slightly dull. It's not dull. It's just not mastered. But you're going to get the ultimate crispiness and level, that two mix, clipped output, if that's what you're going for, in the mastering process. And you're going to find a lot of the tracks that you will bring into a mix they're mastered. And
Yeah.
you're like, why is it sausages and why is it so bright and so loud? I need to make my mix that way. No, you don't. Actually, make sure, give yourself like 6 dB, maybe 8 dB of headroom, maybe
Yeah.
more. And mix so that it sounds balanced and good, and the creative dynamics of it are to your specification. And then you get the final thing in the master.
Yeah. When I first before I put out my EP, I did the Partisan component stuff, and I used Lander to master my tracks, and it was actually super useful because I got the mix as best as I could get it to sound, and then you can run it through Lander before you pay for it.
Yep.
And it kind of gives you an idea of like, oh, it's almost like, okay, I need to tweak this a little bit. Like you said, you don't want to go in too bright or hot.
Yeah,
Or
because your master will be so crispy. It's like,
right.
yeah,
Like Turboplasma's asking about top down. Like I have my top down mix enabled, but I don't limit it. Like when I was sending to Lander, I'd have my EQ and whatever saturation I'm using, and my mix bus compression not doing a ton of to the track, which basically it was just catching the snare.
just glue.
Yeah. And then Lander was nice for that in like learning what it's obviously different because it's algorithm based, but it's programmed by mix engineers or mastering engineers. Take that for what it's worth, but I do think Lander is a good way to kind of get into that, to like see where your mixes are going to end up landing.
Yeah.
As far as mastering goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mastering is almost always going to push the guitars up and make the guitars brighter. And if there's vocals, it often is going to crush the vocals down into the mix. It is a challenge that is very common. It's not always going to be the result, but I don't work with vocals, so typically I've done tons of vocal recordings, but I don't often work with vocals that way.
Right.
But yeah, guitars almost always get crispier just by nature of bringing the level up and kind of smashing that two mix. And just to go back a little bit, I believe, Jason Oshosky, he's asking, like, could I explain mastering a little bit? And for those of you who are not, hip to the sort of process, the mixing process is and the mastering process are often separate. Like if you're in the professional world, like working in a studio or whatever, it's always going to be separate. It never happens in one step. And what that means is they mix all the tracks together so that the performance of the music is as intended and the dynamic movement and all of that is as intended. And the general sound of the record is there. It's bright enough. It's, it's got enough bass and everything is there. And then it's in the mastering stage that you're going to kind of like maybe tweak the brightness a little bit. But like, you don't want a thing with mastering is if it's too bright, it's much more of a problem than if it's just slightly dull. And there's a whole bunch of things like that. And like conversely with the bass guitar or bass in general, in mastering, it's a little bit better if there's a little bit much bass, just a bit. Like if it's way too much bass, that's a problem as well. But if it's a little bassy, it's way better than if it's not bassy enough, because adding bass to the mastering process, which is just a 2 mix, like you're just getting the stereo track. It's in a, in a DAW that is dedicated to mastering. And you're using limiting and compressors and tape saturation. You're using a whole bunch of different kinds of tools. There's no specific list. There is a common list of tools that you will use, but it depends on the job. But in the mix, you want to kind of get it in the ball, like really close. But you want to be mindful of the mastering process, which is going to get the level up and kind of glue the track right together and make it, so you don't have to turn the stereo way up when you put the final track on.
So, I mean, in theory, mastering, especially nowadays, probably, and this may or may not be controversial. You can get away with not mastering a track.
Aaron is back, by the way.
Aaron, yeah, he lives in the BUNN, so
hello.
It's like think of it as, I mean, you can use it. I used Lander for a bunch of stuff for a long time, and now I master my stuff on my own. So it's like, sort of this final polish, this final glue, like the BUNN was saying. And you're getting it to an overall level at one time to compete with other stuff. But now, on a lot of streaming services, they're matching the gain of the song for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So where everybody, I'm sure most of us remembers, maybe 10 years ago now, the whole loudness wars thing was a thing.
Yeah.
Like, people were crushing mixes to get them as perceived loud as possible. And all that meant is, like, there's no dynamics. The quiet parts are loud. The loud parts are loud. Everything's loud. That's why you would look at, like, that Metallica album when they went back to their kind of old school sound. Death Magnetic. It's just
Sausages.
There's no dynamics.
I call it the Twix mix.
The Twix mix, exactly. So, J-Dubs, see you later, brother.
Good night, J-Dubs.
So, there's this whole online revelation or renaissance now of, like, you
preserving dynamics.
Yes, absolutely. You don't necessarily need to crush everything anymore. You want to get to an overall volume that's pleasing, that's not super quiet, while still gluing your mix together. And again, glue is one of those terms we throw out there. Well, what does it mean, right? It
just makes the instruments all sound like they're all kind of
you want to kind of
together.
Make it sound exactly. You want to, like, but that's also one of those, like, it's a funny term. It just
essentially it's got a lot to do with compression and limiting and how it kind of the dynamics of the various events in the material interact.
Yeah.
So, hey, whoa, your audio is out, Nick.
Oh, Yeah.
Now
Yours
it's
was out
back.
too.
Oh.
Okay. We're good. We're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatchamacallit? Synth Chris had some good stuff. I just make a mix and master template and use it for months until I decide that I should update it. Yeah, as you learn
Good
more,
approach.
you can, and having a place to that is kind of like your starting point definitely helps a lot. Starting a mix right from the ground up, if you're only working on your own material, is not a good use of your time. So yeah, a template is great. Mastering template is also great. You're like, I'm recording all my material kind of the same way. Well, I should probably start with the master a similar way every time. And whatchamacallit, what else is he get into here? Probably not ideal. I think it is ideal, Chris. I think it is a very ideal workflow. If you're
Yeah.
working on other people's music, maybe not an ideal
Right.
scenario. Then you might want to work from the ground up on every project, depending on what kind of material. Like if you're doing the same type of metalcore album over and over and over again that is completely limited and like super loud and kind of all very much the same, maybe you could work from a, I'm not crapping on metalcore, but there is definitely a thing to it where it is, you could apply a similar process to much of that material just by the nature of the material.
There's a lot. There's so much to this. Like, it's, when I first started, when I was using Lander, it was still kind of at the tail of that, the loudness thing. Like, you needed a track to be pushed to the digital platforms loud. Now, they're like, you can be as loud as you want. We're going to get everybody at these volumes. So if you have a smashed master, they're going to bring it down to match something with more dynamics. And the thing with more dynamics is going to sound more pleasing to more people.
A lot
in my
of times.
opinion.
Yeah, usually.
Yes.
I
Unless
have,
it's like dance or trance
yeah.
or Skrillex tracks.
Yeah. Yeah, some music needs to be slammed. That's what it's about,
Yeah, sure. I mean,
like
I
think,
slam my shit most of the time.
I slam mine. I get the dynamics thing. One thing to say about dynamics is the tools are really good now. So the tools themselves help very much to preserve the dynamic qualities of the music without it sounding pumped or smashed. And you can get the volume up without, like, I don't go too far over clip. There's a process in mastering called clipping, like intentionally clipping your 2-mix.
I mean, that's what a limiter is essentially doing.
Well, modern mastering limiters have a clipping stage built into it.
Right.
But back in the day, how it started, there was the Apogee 88,000 converters, and they were very famous. They had a really great soft clip. So mastering people are like, "Ooh, these things clip real nice." Like usually you don't want to clip digital converters,
right?
But they clipped really well. They had sort of a limiting circuit, I think, in the converter. But they clip pretty nice, and you would be able to get a couple more dB. And so they'd go out analog and back in through these converters. So now there's software versions of clipping.
Yeah.
And it's essentially just like cutting off the peaks. And there's certain peaks that are okay to cut off, and there's certain peaks where you really hear that they're cut off, like a snare drum.
Right. Right. I mean, there's even if you guys listen to like my tracks back to back to back, you'll hear differences in like my approaches to mixing, like on my master bus, and like even like sending to Lander on some of them. And then as I got more confident,
You've been mastering lately.
Like,
for a while now.
Basically, since the EP, I've been doing it all myself because. The more studying I did, I'm a nerd. And I remember spending a week looking into all of this. Like, do I need to, because what I was ultimately thinking about doing is sending it to a professional mastering engineer in Milwaukee, somebody who's like,
which would be a interesting experience if you can afford it.
Yeah, it would be.
They're generally not that expensive if you're doing a single track anyway.
That's the ticket though, is like, it's not super expensive. It would be worth it, but in the game of this YouTube thing, I would rather direct that money somewhere else.
To
you know?
resources. Yeah. There's a lot of things that you need to
Yeah.
spend money on.
Yeah.
And if you don't need to spend unnecessarily, that's a good idea.
Yeah. But and like you and I like to do, we like to know the ins and outs of what it is that we're doing. So I
Yeah.
just feel like I
I,
got to a place where I can get away with mastering my stuff and it sounds pretty competitive.
yeah. I can get close enough for me.
Yeah.
I'm not making tracks for the radio. You know, my
There's
stuff
that
ends up
too.
on Spotify, but
Mm-hmm.
like I'm happier to kind of grow into the abilities
Yep.
than
Absolutely.
than and the space that I'm in just really doesn't matter. I'm a tiny little independent artist, so I afford what we afford ourselves is the space and the lack of pressure to develop our skills and
Yeah.
not really worry about like what's the worst that's going to happen. We have
Yeah. Yeah.
material that
That's it.
doesn't sound absolutely amazing on par with a Sony release.
That's exactly it.
I don't want to
Like
be on Sony ever.
just
So it doesn't matter to me.
so like it again, it kind of calls back to what we were talking about earlier. Yes. Learn what you can as much as you can about it, about the process.
Yeah, because you're afforded
But
that
don't let it
opportunity.
be something that like consumes you and stops your progress, you
Yeah,
know?
just get out there.
Just put
Nick
it
Hill,
out. And if it's
do you know what I'm
not
about to do?
urinate. Oh.
Yes.
All right. We'll let Bun pee because little does he know that I'm going to have to pee as well. Look at this. This mustache is... Yeah, so in the last several tracks that I put out, I mixed and mastered myself. So take that for what it's worth. You know, if you guys do a little bit of research, get a rough idea of what it is you're aiming for. You know, you can put out your music, and then the more you put out, the more you can kind of get an idea of like where you need to improve. You know. Nice. Yeah, I drank all my drinks already. I think when Bun comes back, I'm gonna get myself another drink and tinkle. But what else is going on? Let's see. I go through these. Yeah, Pro L. I use Pro L a lot, pretty much all the time, and I also have it set to LUFS. And I do try and shoot for that -14 also, but I don't use it as a hard stop. You know what I mean? Like I go for overall sound. No,
Whoa.
don't wait for the stream to end. Just go run and grab a drink. Do
Yeah.
it. Do what you got to do. You see, we do that too.
We do
were-
it.
Like I'm gonna throw it to Bun because I also have to pee. Bun
gotta
pees
you gotta
way
do-
faster than me though.
Well, you got to
I
go
feel
upstairs
like you
though.
sprint. That's true. I have to go. All,
Yeah,
because,
I don't have
yeah,
to go. The bathroom is beside this room, so
I need to also grab some drinks too because I drank all my shit too quickly.
Yeah,
But
I'm officially out. That's okay though, because I've drank so much fluid. What
what
time
are
is it?
you?
What's 11:49? So we're coming up on. We're going to be 2 hours at 12.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you what you have been using on your as far as like your mix bus or your mastering chain, and you can answer that while I urinate because
Yeah,
I think I already know the answer.
So in my mixing sessions, I don't have one open right now. But in mixing sessions, I typically on the master bus don't do too much. It might be tape saturation. It might be a console 2-mix emulation, like a Neve or an SSL 2-mix. I typically don't compress on the 2-mix. The 2-mix being the stereo bus of the total mixer. And there are a lot of people who will put a compressor there. It's very common. It's a very common practice, and you can get a little bit of glue there. Generally, I don't lately. but you can put a compressor there. I think what I'm doing with the console emulation is I'm driving it pretty hard. So I'm getting a little bit of clip, a little bit of saturation, which in fact is a type of compression. So we'll do that on the mix. And then moving to the master, my mastering chain is pretty significant. Not very much happens in the mastering chain on the channel itself. So it's just a DAW. Like I still use Reaper for mastering, but it'll just be one channel with the actual track, the 2-mix track, the stereo track that I've bounced out of my mix. And if there's any plugins on that channel, it will just be an EQ to get rid of any sub bass. So a 50 hertz roll off, so a high pass filter. And then on the actual 2-mix on the stereo bus is where I will do all of the mastering sort of chain of things. And at the there's a lot that goes on. It could be tape saturation, could be channel emulation of a famous console, depending on what I'm going for. There will be a compressor in there or a few. Very, very minor amounts of compression or very minor differences between each plugin. With mastering, doing a lot in one step is generally not a great practice. Sometimes it is. It depends on the material. And then at the very end, I will use the Slate FGX or FXG mastering compressor, which I think is based on a Fairchild 670, but I could be wrong. Could be a ground up Slate thing. But it has a compression stage and a mastering stage, or not a mastering stage, a limiting stage. And in the limiter, there's clipping built in. And you can do a soft clip or you can do a hard clip. And there's some other tools in the Slate mastering compressor that are very useful. If you're not following me because that's all kind of foreign, I apologize. But that's what's going on. I may do videos, like I'm starting to do more videos about like the how-to stuff, and there will be more of those on the channel. The Stuck with the BUNN series is going to be focusing more on that kind of stuff for 2021. So there will be a mixing video. There will be a mastering video, because the question strangely comes up a lot, and I didn't think anybody cared because I thought there was enough resources out there. But maybe people are interested in how the small guys are doing it. I don't know. Y'all set, Nick? Yeah, I tried to just like get it out, get the idea out, and I think I got it out there. Jason, you're very welcome. Inflator is absolutely killer for mastering on the mix bus. I have not used Inflator, but I have heard about it. And it is a limiter. I think it's a limiter expander kind of idea. Could be wrong. A lot of plugins have a mono and stereo version. Do you always use the stereo version on the master bus? Yes. I never use mono effects on the master bus if I'm making a stereo master. Where I could see doing that would be if you're in a traditional studio. So I used to use just regular console and a whole bunch of outboard gear and all that kind of stuff. And in that case, I would use sometimes two, like as paired as possible, two mono limiters, like 1176. I would use two 1176s, which were mono, on each side of the stereo bus.
Yeah.
But in the DAW, if you're mastering for a stereo master, there are instances where you might be doing a mono master. But if you're doing a stereo master, stick to stereo. Make sure that they're stereo effects. There are some effects that you may find that you're like, is this stereo or mono? Make sure you know. Because yeah, ending up with a mono master after pouring your heart and soul into a release would be a tragedy. Nothing fancy. Miller Lite is good enough. My 9-year-old son is on the spectrum as well. Any plans in the future? I'm making a video in the future on it. Being autistic. I'm high functioning autistic, and I I don't know what it really means in relationship to people who aren't autistic. Um,
Mm.
but I've had to learn how the world works in order to navigate the world. And I came to that late in my 30s. So I always knew something was up. I'm like, what the hell is up with the world? And there's that saying, it's like, if everything seems wrong with the world, it's probably you. And that was definitely the case for me. And once I really kind of was aware of what was going on, I was very aggressive to learn as much as possible about it. The interesting thing at that time was I was learning about autism from the perspective of people who were not, neurotypical, who studied autism.
Mm.
And it was a difficult thing to kind of like put into perspective because you see the world differently if you're autistic.
Yeah.
So I'm very close to being neurotypical. I'm not that far away, but far enough away that it was interesting. There are some advantages apparently to being autistic, like extreme focus on nerdy things, like mixing and art and music and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, any topic that you find interesting, typically you will go very, very, very aggressively towards. I feel like that's everyone I know personally, though.
Yeah. I think it's like I don't know like what to say to not say the wrong thing when it comes to this, but it's like you took the approach of like learning where your potential, I don't know, shortcomings, if you will, for
Yeah,
lack of a better term.
they are shortcomings until you understand them, and not all autistic people are high enough up where they can really kind of they have the opportunity to make sense of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's still a lot that's unknown about it.
Of course.
But I am, I guess, thankfully in a space where not only can I identify what's going on, but I can make sense. I can analyze the outside world, make sense of it, and kind of teach myself how to adapt to it and be effective and
Right.
still be my authentic self. But I don't have to hide, or I don't have to put a mask on and then gas myself out, which is what a lot of people who adapt in autism, that's their adaptive means or whatever. But anyway,
Yeah.
I don't want to get too much into my personal stuff, but it's cool that there are other people that are in similar kinds of situations.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for my situation, but it definitely made going into adult life very, very difficult at first. And like, thankfully I had the opportunity to figure out what was going on. But I think it is definitely an advantage in things like art and technical things, engineering, physics, mathematics, like anything that requires extreme focus.
Yeah, I think it's like the takeaway, in my opinion, like when we kind of, the closer we got, and once you felt, you told me about it, I was just like, well, it just goes to show that, like, most of our differences don't mean squat. It doesn't mean anything.
So long as it's our differences don't mean squat, as long as we both have the opportunity to be able to look at what's on the table and make sense of it.
Yeah.
Differences do mean a lot when one person is specifically disadvantaged by that difference. There's a whole, like, I don't want to get too far into that, but like using this one as an example, like if a neurotypical person versus, let's say, an autistic person, and the artistic person has no idea what's happening to them, they can be easily manipulated,
Oh yeah, for
and
sure.
all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, gear stuff and things. Welcome.
Oh,
Insomnia
brother.
always wins. I hope you're well. You had a little bit of a headache, but maybe the drugs kicked in. Did a Tylenol 2, an Advil. You know, I only had Advil or Tylenol or whatever for the first time. It's already maybe 10 years ago, but I got hit by a car and I was in the hospital and they gave me Tylenol
Good
2.
God.
And I was like, 15 minutes after, I'm like, whoa, this stuff works. They're like, yeah, you've never had Tylenol before? I'm like, no, I generally prefer not to take things unless I absolutely need them. Swaffy, good night.
Swaffy,
Hope you're well.
Sleep well, brother.
Hi, GST. I like it how he's gear stuff and things is now the Canadian tax.
Oh yeah.
GST is what we call our tax. Or I guess it's HST now, harmonized sales tax. It used to be the
It was GST when I was shipping.
goods and services tax.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's cool.
Yeah,
I dig it.
life is an interesting place.
Bun and I have realized as we've quickly become, not I say quickly, but it's been like you said, 2 years now we've been chums.
Over that,
Just
I
about.
think 3 years, because you before
God,
we
that's insane.
before we did anything, between our channels, we were already talking. I remember, we were getting to know each other right before I got my GoPro Hero 7. So whenever the Hero 7 came out,
Yeah.
it was about the time that we became acquainted.
Yeah.
Because I remember you were the only person to comment from a camera person's point of view. I didn't know that you had a channel yet. And
Yeah.
it was that comment. You're like, whoa, that GoPro looks pretty good or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, thanks, man. And then I went and checked your channel. I'm like, oh, this guy makes videos. Sick.
Yeah. So
'Cause-
wow, that's all. It's time flies when you're having
Yeah.
fun. I swear. I can't.
So when
believe
did the
it.
Hero 7 come out? It's on the Hero 9 now. So it's 2 iterations of cameras
At
ago.
least. So yeah, it's probably closer to 3 years ago now. Shit.
Yeah.
That's insane to me.
Yeah.
Well, the point I was gonna make is as it slowly tries to creep away. I've never really felt it leave, but it just left. The point I was trying to make.
Oh, no.
Anyhow, it'll come back.
We've known each other for that long.
Yeah,
And
3 years.
and it's been so
And-
that was
Oh!
the genesis of your
I remember.
of the topic.
Our mutual enjoyment of the human condition.
Yeah.
Of
What it means
of-
to be alive.
Yeah, we had a good conversation about what's going on in my life the other day, and it's just we both look at life and family interactions and friendships and relationships and social shit that's going on in a way that's like trying to understand,
What
trying
does it
to
mean?
have empathy for all sides.
Mhm.
Trying to recognize the way we look at things now versus the way we've looked at them in the past versus the way we're capable of flip-flopping on things. We're super nerdy about that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's kind of bleeding into this a little bit, but I think it's good because there's a whole philosophical side of building this community and being a YouTuber / a musician, because that's the core of this. The core of Bunn's channel is his music. The core of my channel is music. That's kind of why we're doing the channels. And
That's why I started doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
like,
and
oh.
it bleeds into other things, but the center is the music, is having people hear our music. But there's a lot that goes into it. We have so many cool people that we talk to, basically weekly now and regularly.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's the thing that I think through I don't know how it is for other people who are doing the YouTube thing, but it seems like there are a lot of people who are earlier than us that kind of grew a little bit faster and are so big that they're completely detached from their
Oh
audience
yeah,
or
yeah.
from the community that is around their thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then um, I think we started doing it in a time where you're kind of going along with the people who are interested in the topic, and
Yeah.
it builds a little bit a little bit slower, and um, in the very beginning when you're nobody, it's very difficult to connect with people. But pretty as soon
Mm-hmm.
as you kind of get into the 1,000 subscriber zone, whatever that is, um, that's kind of when it's sort of easier to kind of connect with people on a more human level. And yeah, this community kind of thing builds around. I don't like calling it a community. It's just like uh,
Yeah, I feel like
acquaintances and friends. And some people are acquaintances, some people are more friends, some people are just people that are always around. It's like the reason I'm a little bit sensitive to the community part is because I think that there are certain sort of internet people that take advantage of that title
yeah, that word's
in a
been
negative
hijacked a
way.
little bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
So I'm a bit careful with it. Um, but yeah, this thing has connected us with like so many incredible people. And some people end up starting channels, or some people end up putting out music and stuff, and you get to kind of like be along for everyone's ride in this amazing way. Um, it's like I generally, I'm kind of always paying attention to what Chris McVicker is doing because I love his like dedication to creativity and like how he does things and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And there's like a whole bunch of people, Stephen Barton, Baritone Cult, like watching his channel come up out of nowhere in like less than a year.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was gonna kind of touch on is you and I think alike along this. Like again, like our channels aren't huge. Yours is bigger than mine. You're
Not by
10 and a
much.
half 10.5K now, and that's nothing to shake a stick at. But I also
No, I'm very, very
recognize
thankful.
that, I'm like I think I'm at like 7.5 or something. I don't something like that, which is a lot, Every once in a while I'm like, damn, I only have that much. But imagine 7,500 people like standing in front of me at a venue or something.
Yeah, it's pretty
So,
weird.
so we have small channels, but small in this world is not nothing, as they say.
Well, there's an advantage in that if you're willing, and that
Yeah,
is it's easier to kind of connect with people.
right. And that's
Uh,
what's nice about like me and you and Steven from Gear Stuff and Things, and Aaron from
yeah,
Baritone Cult. And if any of you other guys in the chat have channels that are at whatever stage, like me and Bun, and I'm sure Steven and Aaron, like there's room for everybody to grow. We all bring a different perspective,
yeah, everyone's thing
personalities.
is completely different.
Yeah.
They don't like they maybe overlap in areas, but everyone's got their own thing going. It's like there's plenty of room for everyone.
Yeah, and there seems to be I don't know how it is now. I kind of don't pay attention to it, but it does seem like at least for a while in regards to like I'm into like the camera side of things because I am a videographer and a video editor,
Yeah.
and a musician. So like I follow too many YouTubers, but there does seem to be, at least there was for a while, there's either this level of competitiveness that is like not necessarily the healthiest thing in the world, or there's these groups, and they just do whatever they can do to help one another. And I feel like, we can maybe be building a group in a positive way where it's like,
Is that not what we're doing? I feel like
yeah,
that's what
no,
we're
we
doing.
are. We totally are. I think that is like
Yeah.
especially in America, things might be a little bit different in Canada. We've talked about this. Like, there's this very much like,
There is a competitive spirit
go for it,
in
go
the
for it.
United
It's
States.
about you. You need to worry about you, and do what you got to do to get on top. But I think like anybody who's around me, like, I don't know who, I can't remember who said it, but
Dan
high
Murray
tide,
said it.
high tide raises all but what? Did he?
Dan Murray said humans are stronger together than apart.
Yep.
And yeah,
I'm just always willing to help anybody at any stage of their channel if I can, if time permits. That's the biggest thing.
their channel of their music thing, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Like if there's some kind of an overlap, and you know, I don't have to drop everything I'm doing.
Yeah, that's the biggest hurdle when it comes to helping.
Because
time.
life is incredibly busy on top of everything. So if there's a good overlap in like terms of this community type of thing that is going on, and you're on the same page with someone, and it's easy to help. Of course, you're going to help because I don't know. I just want to see everything get better and get, the Facebook group. It's amazing. And in this new BO Riffs thing where everyone's kind of sharing their creativity as opposed to just talking about guitars all the time. I love talking about guitars just like anybody else, but I'm way more interested in what people use guitars for. I'm not trying to pit the two things against each other, but we could say that about everything. The Helix, the Helix is an incredible box, but what's way more, so it's very exciting to learn more about it. If you don't know very much about it, to learn how to navigate it and get in there and kind of like really work with it, that's exciting. But what's even more exciting is using it in a way that you're excited about. So, kind of moving forward, I think something we're going to see a lot in 2021 is a big creativity explosion. And in terms of this thing we're talking about, of all boats rise in a high tide. The high tide that I'm really interested in is kind of like being supportive as possible and kind of spearheading that creativity, and everybody kind of like making stuff and tasking themselves to the making part. I think the making part is really, really important. And it's the thing that makes a scene, or the thing that changes culture forever. You know?
Yeah,
that's exciting.
It is. It really is. We've been thinking about that a lot, and it's cool stuff.
Yeah,
that's why, like, if I like Bunn said, if I have the time, I'll help anybody, because and I'll share, whatever I can share that'll be helpful. Like, I talk about how I mix stuff all the time. Like, I'm not an expert. I basically learn from other people, but there's no secrets, like if you take the time, you're going to figure out the same stuff I have. So I might as well try and help you save a little time.
Yeah.
And thus be a little more creative because of it.
Yeah. Like if there's overlap, it's easy. Spend the 5 minutes, 10 minutes, even sometimes it's like a half hour, whatever.
Yeah.
Excitement for art, music, roaring 20 style. Yeah, I agree with Steven. Well, I shouldn't say that I agree, but I feel that. I feel that's where it's going as well. I think to just say I agree doesn't mean anything.
We've talked about Peter McKinnon, Bunn, several times as a fellow Canadian to you. He put out a video the other day that was. And again, I remember following Peter when he had basically no followers. Not that that's anything special, but the point I'm trying to make is he's huge.
I used to make his DVDs before he was a YouTuber.
You have like some sort of real life connection with him.
I don't know him,
Right, you're not on a personal level, but like there's
as a customer,
the small world kind of thing, But as he's gotten huge, his channel has changed. And I'm not saying for the negative, but it's sort of drifted away from what I got into him. And he put out this video the other day saying, I think the title was Just a YouTuber. And he's kind of done a couple videos on this. And it's not, it is sort of like selling an accomplishment for him. But the crux of it is, or the crux of it was like, he talked about the community of filmmakers on YouTube and how, at one time, and sometimes it still can be, it was like, oh, you're just a YouTuber. You're just a YouTuber.
Right.
Whether that being a filmmaker on YouTube or a musician on YouTube or a guitar player on YouTube who does covers or whatever you might be doing. But I don't think it's the YouTube community, like the group of people, even though we don't like using that word,
Yep.
the world that we're building, like with us and you guys in the chat,
Yeah.
is changing
And
that.
and the we is all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So it's not. I don't know what it was about it. Like it was like like television in general. Like if you think about like shows, for
Yeah.
a long time, if you were on TV, you weren't doing well in the industry. It's not like that anymore. And I
Yeah.
think because of all the creative people that YouTube allows to be seen,
Yeah.
now it's making this wave and it's building in a big way where it's like
Yeah.
it can't be ignored anymore. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I
it's-
just think it's cool. Like don't
Oh.
if you're just a small musician, if you're just a small YouTuber, it's
Yeah, I think I think what you're getting at is like, don't worry about being a small anything. That's what I'm getting from it.
that's
And
what I was getting at in a
just
long-winded
focus
way.
on what you're doing and pay attention to the people beside you, around you, beside you, and if there's an opportunity to kind of connect with people, not for any opportunity. The opportunity in it is to make
Yeah.
connection.
Yes.
Because
You got to be
said
genuine with
earlier-
that part of it.
Well, I also think like either it's valuable to you or not. Like some people, it's just, maybe they're sociopathic or maybe they're just, I don't know, emotionless.
Yeah.
But for me, like, and I think this is the case with most of the people who are hanging out here and in a lot of these kinds of videos, where it's like we have these interests that are not weird interests. There's nothing really that weird about the guitars
Right.
we're into or whatever,
Yeah.
but they're pretty niche. And because of that, the things that really get us stoked about life, there's very few people to connect with on those topics. And what's the best thing in life is when you connect with people who are kind of like you. You don't have to be exactly the same. I'm just saying, like, when you don't have to dumb down your language, or like you can just speak freely of who you are. And if you are speaking about something, like we've done it so many times just in this conversation, where we've having a conversation where it might be beyond somebody else, but we have the opportunity to be like, oh, okay, you don't understand that. People are brave enough to say, I don't know what that is. Can you bring it up? And you
Yeah.
speak to that thing. We don't have to talk over people's heads. We can speak freely. We can be like, I'm interested in this band and you hate that band, and we're not going to get chastised for it.
Right.
And there might be some fun poking, but like it's pretty mellow.
Absolutely.
So those are the things about this space that are incredible, because in my day-to-day walking up and down the block to get groceries or to grab a coffee or to go to work, those people aren't in my path. I'm not offended by the people in my life.
Right.
Obviously COVID is very lonely, but in the general world, beyond COVID. So yeah, if we have an opportunity to connect, amazing.
Yeah. I mean,
Because the world is lonely.
shit, dude. If it weren't for YouTube and the internet, we wouldn't be pals.
I'd
you
never
what I
know
mean?
you. Yeah.
Yeah. And you are such a, not to get cheesy or whatever, like you're so important to me now.
Same.
Along this whole journey. It's like, that's the beautiful thing, is you never know who you're going to meet when you're doing this kind of thing, and why your default should just be open-minded and not be an a-hole about stuff,
Yeah. Just be stoked. I think
Yeah.
like
You say it all the time.
I say it all the time,
Stoked.
but like
Just
if
be
you can figure out a way to like be stoked, even when maybe a few chips are down, life gets a lot better.
Jason made a very a poignant comment here. I love your laugh, Bun. Bun's laugh.
I get some shit from my laugh.
Man,
It's weird.
F the haters, because
Yeah.
when I first started watching your channel, I remember I came across one of your videos and I binged it. and I was watching upstairs on my Xbox when practicing, and Tony saw it too. And that's one of the things we noticed about you is your laugh. And we were like, I don't know. I'm like, dude, I love that he keeps the laughs in. Like, to me,
Yeah.
that is the shit, man. Like,
There's so many that it gets weird if I try to cut them out. That's why they ended up in there.
yeah,
So yeah, I don't know. It's like I laugh because things are like a bit weird to me all the time, or like a little bit absurd. I just find things like
no, you're right. It is absurd.
kind of funny, you know. And
I
like
laugh
I say,
at,
I'm pretty
at every
stoked.
moment I can get. I just don't do it much on my channel because I'm just such a sarcastic F word. But yeah, laughter is, it literally is to me, like, it's the best therapy, it's the best medicine, and I don't know, it's fucking great.
Yeah. And self-inflatable brings up a really good point. I played live before humans ever existed. Just so
I've
in
played
case
live
anyone
before
knows.
too. I have played in the band. I played live. I played bass. I played many a show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, shows. Remember those? Wow. Steven, I know he's like got a
Yeah.
a
It'll happen again, boys. It'll happen again one day.
yeah, where everybody
Everybody
wants to play live again.
We got to stay stoked until then. That's all we can do.
Yeah.
You know?
He's stoked.
Oh, I'm not in
You got a
genty
clean
mode.
tone. I
I'm
don't
not
even
in genty mode.
I'm going to go to a clean mode. What do we got here? Wetlands amp. Mid. That's my mid gain tone.
Ryan asked about live tone versus recording tone, and when I played in a band, I played bass, and I played through like a real Ampeg and a real bass cab, with nothing but a noise gate. So, and that was like 2004, 2005, 2006. So forever ago, but they are completely different things, recording tones and live tones, for the most part, in my
I would
opinion.
say, yeah. My live tones are always quite a bit different. And I used the Pod HD before COVID, and yeah, my patches for live, because they're going without cabs into a cab, and
Right.
then it's going to be interesting using the helix going forward, because I'm going to have cabs on one side to go to front of house, like IRs.
I do have a video where I use the HX Stomp going into the Duncan power stage into a 2x12, and I think it was more of a power stage video, but I think I am going to make another video on creating a tone for a live scenario and what those differences might be.
Yeah,
you know,
like kind of record what's happening through the whole thing and be like, is there a difference? This is what I experienced.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fun video topic.
I think most
Ryan had a Pod HD. Nick also had a Pod HD.
Yeah, the Pod HD. I love my. I regret. There's two things.
You sold
two
it?
pieces of gear. Yeah.
Ugh.
Long ago when I got the Helix.
Yeah. Makes
there's
sense.
there's two pieces of gear I regret getting rid of. That's one of them, and my Schecter Base 6 is the other.
Oh yeah. I thought for a long time that you had the Schecter Ultra 6, but you had the more sort of the Base 6 as a Base 6 type of style, like offset looking kind of guitar.
It was offset. It had 3 single coils. It had the 3 switches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the
I'm
one.
not sure which. Yeah.
Was it a burst?
Yep.
Finished? Yeah.
It was a burst. Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sounded off. Oh, you thought the HD? I still think I can get good sounds out of the HD.
I think I could too. There's some at the store that I do videos for. I might see if I can borrow it and try and do some shit today with it. It'd be fun. Go back.
self-inflatable. It's like, yeah, we used to play in a band together. We used to use 2 810s. Like we'd roll with 2 810s, 2 412s. So the guitar would be 2 412s, one guitar player, 2 412s, 2 212s. You know, a Mesa dual rectifier, tremo verb, and a mat amp. And then I think it was like a 2 bass amps and 2 Ampeg 8x12s. And the cabs were all oversized recto cabs, like the guitar cabs.
So what you're saying is you guys were loud.
No, we weren't. It wasn't for loud. It was for perfect clarity. So we didn't actually have to, because when you turn a small amp up too loud to get to an appropriate level,
Yeah.
it actually distorts and it's not clear. So the whole idea was to just have this like and also have very solid bottom end, where the bottom end was like super solid.
Right.
But the Pod HD that I have right now came into play through that period, and it replaced with a 1500 watt power amp the 2 bass cabinets. One would be distorted, one would be clean Ampeg kind of tone.
Sick.
But
I had a Sonic cab for my bass rig. It was a 210 with an 18-inch speaker, and I replaced the speakers, put a new crossover in and everything, and the thing was so friggin' loud. Like, my bandmates hated me.
Were you the guy to always like, yo, like I need to hear myself, bro?
I mean, everybody needs to hear the bass. We were a post-hardcore band.
Yeah.
You know?
If there's no bass, there's no life.
Yeah, what's the point?
Yeah.
And of course, it was when I was like low end and then bright chime. So like you could hear me everywhere in wherever we played.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh man, I miss those days.
There's a couple interesting topics here in relationship to all this. Gear Stuff and Things is talking about using Power Stage 170 with the Helix. The settings are absolutely different. Yes. What I'm curious about, Stephen, I know that you've used the Helix and the Power Stage for rehearsals with your band. What is your opinion? I've heard a lot of people say that Power Stage is not quite loud enough to get over hard-hitting drums. Your drummer might be really in control and not like a super massive hitter. So I'm curious.
Man, I find that hard to believe.
I've heard it a lot lately.
Really?
Yeah. People come to me with these kinds of problems.
I wonder what I don't. I'm not denying. I'm not trying to like poo-poo the. I've rehearsed in a rehearsal room with a band.
Yeah.
With that rig, my Helix into the Power Stage into a 4x12, and it was it's loud. It was.
Yeah.
I don't know if I had.
Steven's saying that they tell him to turn down as well. I wonder if the people who are complaining or who are having difficulties maybe have inefficient cabinets or some kind of weird mismatch going on.
Yeah.
That is a possibility.
Yeah, I wonder.
And then, so what is the other thing here? Ryan is saying that he goes direct to FOH with his Helix. FOH is front of house. And
I can't find his comment.
I can't scroll. I'm not in control of the feed.
Is it above Stevens?
It's just below. Yeah, it's just above Stevens' last one, but much lower.
That's not it.
If that's happening, yeah. They are running it at 4 ohms. That's what's going to change it a lot. Okay, yeah. If you use the whatchamacallit, the faucet idea, like with a nozzle on it. If the nozzle is wide open, all of the water pressure is not very strong. But if the nozzle is tight, there's a lot of pressure and you will get more volume. And if it's appropriate, you will get maximum efficiency of the power amp as well as a decent amount of volume. Power stage like the most.
It
Yeah,
goes from 4 ohms to 16 ohms,
Right.
170 watts.
so just match it.
Yeah.
Or you could go.
So that would mean 16 ohms would be the 170 watts, right? Because the wattage would dip with the
No.
ohmage. No?
No, the wattage is going to be. Well, it's weird
I thought there was
because
some sort of correlation. And again, I'm ignorant to it.
generally no, but there are certain solid state power amps where you can't get full access to the total available output without sort of concocting an ohms situation. So I have the Wounded Pod
Yeah.
bass amp, and it is a 700 watt power amp, but the only way I can get there, it is 700 watts at 536 ohms. I can't remember, something weird. And the only way I can get closest to the resistance of that output in order to maximize the total available volume is to try and match it as close as possible, which means mixing a 4 ohm cab and an 8 ohm cab in a serial way.
Yeah.
And I get closest to the match, and I get closest to that 700 watts of output. So I'm not sure what's going on with the power stage in that way. There might be something. What is its maximum output at what resistance?
Yeah, so I'm trying to do some quick nerding. Some of the guys mentioned in the chat that and I think they're right based on what I remember, that it's 170 at 4 ohms. So you could, like you said, figure out your situation. And I have the first generation of it. Now there's probably been 3 now after that. Where it's, yeah, you can bridge it now on one of
Right.
them. But regardless, aren't most 4x12s running at 4 ohms?
All of my Carrie, stop it. All of my cabs are either 4 or 8. But there are
Yeah.
cabs that are 4, 8, and 16 switchable. So
Right. So 170 watts is loud.
yeah, they say that it's supposed to be kind of like tube guitar amp type of output. This is the word on the street. So yeah, I think something must be up if people are having difficulty. Something's wrong with their cabs.
I mean, it could be. Well, are most people using a modeler? I mean, it depends. There's a lot of gain staging steps along the way, you know?
That's another thing is, yeah, I've definitely, and I've had in my Pod HD, I've had patches where I don't feel like I did anything special, where I had a way louder patch than the very next one I created. And I just could not get to that level of output. But like I say, I didn't do anything special. So sometimes that kind of thing is kind of happening. It's just your patch is really quiet for some reason.
Right.
But
Okay.
okay. Are we going to shut it down?
Yeah.
All right. It's that
We
time.
blathered enough, huh?
Yeah. 12:30? Yeah, definitely. All right,
Cool.
guys, it's super late. Amazing conversation. I
Per
hope you're
usual.
well. And
Thanks for
that
everybody for
reverse
showing
is a
up.
combo. Quitters. Yeah, we are quitters.
Yep.
Be well. And this happens every week. I may or may not be here every week, but Nick is here every single week. And
Yeah,
you're going to
you'll
be
at least
9
have to
o'clock.
deal with me. Yep.
9 o'clock, 9 Central Time, right? Or
Yes.
Mountain Time, Central Time.
Central Time.
Right.
CST.
CST.
Yes.
Cool.
I am going to try and snag BUNN as often as I can because
Yeah.
these are always good.
I'm going to try and do it as much as possible.
Yeah.
Cool.
So thank you guys for showing up. Everybody have a good week. Everybody have a good. Was it January already? Shit.
Yeah, 2021. Weird.
It's only up from here, hopefully.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
everybody have a good night. Have a good weekend.
Good
And we'll see you guys
night.
later.